Hello. Welcome to everyone, all our friends. It's so good to know that you are from all over the world. It would be wonderful if you can open the camera and put the gallery view. And I know that we are from different part of the world. I am in Costa Rica. So
hello.
Hello. So wonderful. I hope that this is a beautiful excuse to all of us be together. And today we are going to have different languages. So for the ones who don't speak English, that you need translation, there is a way to listen the translation. So we are going to this icon that you can see where it is written interpretation. You can go there and click the language you want to listen. And one of our speakers, that it's Marcela, she's going to speak in Spanish. So when she's speaking in Spanish and you need to understand English, then you go to interpretation, okay? But when you don't need any more to listen the translation, then you go back to the original language, okay? So I hope that everyone is okay with the translations. And now I want to introduce Julia. Julia, welcome. My colleague from the Brahma Kumaris at the UN office.
Thank you, Marianne, and good morning and afternoon and evening to all of you from across the world. Indeed, as Marianne said, it's so lovely to see you all and that we're all together today. So we're very happy to have you participate with us in this powerful gathering of sisters and brothers to reflect on women's transformative leadership in a digital age. We are fortunate to have with us women leaders from different continents who will share their perspectives on how women and girls can claim their agency and lead the way in serving their communities in this digital age, whether that be through business or politics, media, education, or in their families. When a woman has a deep recognition of her talents, a deeper sense of her own self-worth, and lives by it, it gives her the courage, determination, and perseverance to go beyond barriers that society places on her, unleashing a potential for learning, being innovative, in the face of challenges and going beyond limits. Nurturing this sense of self cannot be underestimated, and it is a spiritual process of inner development that women and girls need so they can confidently be part of this digital transformation. A transformation that will flourish with the feminine qualities of care and compassion, non-violence, and collaboration. Our gathering today will be a mix of short presentations, conversation amongst the panelists, moderated by our award-winning documentary reporter and presenter, Philippa Blackman. We'll have time for inner reflection, questions from participants, and a short guided visual meditation. In closing, you will be offered some online tools to help access and develop inner resources. So to begin our program today, I'd like to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Gayatri Naraine, who will make a short address and then will later join us in the panel. Gayatri Naraine is an author, speaker, and a practicing Raj Yogi. She considers herself a student of lifelong learning. The pure intent in the service that she does is focused on developing spiritual life skills and integrating them into practical styles. Gayatri is the main representative of the Brahma Kumaris to the United Nations here in New York. In this capacity, she, along with the BK team at the UN, explore transformation as a spiritual and universal phenomena. Gayatri is vice chair of the International Day of Yoga Committee at the UN. She lives here in New York City and was born in Guyana. Her publications include the book Something Beyond Greatness, a conversation between a man of science and a woman of God. So it's with a very warm welcome and a big heart that we welcome Gayatri to speak with us.
Thank you, Julia, and good morning and hello to so many friends I'm seeing today. So I feel quite comfortable and at ease sharing with you some of my thoughts on this very important subject. I'd like to begin with a quote that's taken from the Baha'is statement to the CSW that's currently going on. And in their statement, they said, "This moment in history presents an opportunity to harmonize innovation with humanity's highest wisdom." 2 days ago, I participated in a rather dynamic conversation on the topic of values in innovation hosted by the Baha'is, with a focus on women, their engagement in reimagining digital technologies. And I was asked to respond to the question, what are the unique and distinct qualities, perspectives, and contributions that women and girls can make to technology innovation? Today, I'm here with you, and we are engaging in the subject of women's transformative leadership in a digital age. So whether we are talking about reimagining digital technologies or transformative leadership in a digital age, the same question holds strong for me. The terms digital empowerment and transformative potential of technology are used, but these are only tools, and how we choose to use them, it is this that makes the difference. The direction we want development to move in depends on the will and conscience, and of course, the ingenuity of human beings. We know what we don't want. We do not want technology to widen the existing disparities any further. What we do want is to collectively and collaboratively work together toward gender equality, toward diversity, toward a safer and more sustainable future for all. We are aware that the digital era has the potential to dramatically change, and it has done, in inconceivable ways, the way we relate to one another, the way we live, the way we work, and even the way we spend our leisure time. And we're also aware that the choices we make today in this digital era will profoundly impact our tomorrow. Transformative leadership calls for deeper shifts in awareness, in attitudes, in vision, and in behaviors, but also in ways of working. seeing that more and more people are spending more and more time in the digital world, then it is important for transformative leadership to take the human factor, which is people, into account. At this time, digital transformation is mostly in the hands of corporations. And so it is vital for communities to become more involved in this process. Otherwise, the power of digital transformation would be left in the hands of a few and in the hands of the powerful. Women are already playing pivotal roles as change agents within communities. Their transformative leadership balances material well-being with spiritual considerations. So for me, there are three distinctive qualities that women bring to the transformative process, particularly within the community context in this digital era. The first distinctive quality is women leave no one behind. In her leadership function, she makes sure that she involves everyone, not just those in the IT department or those who manage the data or the marketing experts, but all the main stakeholders in the community. She knows she needs to connect people, to bring everybody on board. So she invests time in inspiring, in informing, and communicating with members of the community by explaining what this digital era is all about and what's in it for them. She's aware that the way she involves and includes others is the way to get their commitment, but through a learning process. She recognizes that the process is not only about technological progress and digital transformation, but it is about people's participation in its development. She views the digital space as an opportunity for women to pioneer a way of learning and a way of leading that is co-creative and collaborative. A quality of learning and leading, which is embedded in the principle that each individual matters and the solution to any challenge requires the creative resources, talents, and skills of everyone to work together for a common higher purpose where we can all learn to live better lives together. The second distinctive quality is women make the best mentors. They are more a coach and less a commander. As a coach, she promotes diversity in all programs. She doesn't assume that she has all the right answers. There's a humility with which she engages others with questions. She stimulates curiosity and she invites an openness. She encourages people to look at challenges and opportunities from different perspectives with the aim of finding new and better answers for the well-being of the community. She keeps connecting the points of building a digital property, using innovative technology, but then grounding it in real life experiences. There is special attention paid to the generation of young leaders. Her recognition is that a shift has already happened in the awareness and attitude present in the young generation of leaders, as they are more open to diversity. The digital era has resulted in young leaders of today living and thinking globally, and they are more cross-culturally savvy. As coaches and mentors, women as transformative leaders need to pay attention to the students aspiring to meaningful careers. They need to be coached in a different manner. The transformative quality of leadership requires women to mentor girls to have a deep inner security of their own worth so that they can pursue careers in the STEM, in science, in technology, in engineering and math with confidence. In removing the stereotyping and aspiring to gender equality, we as women must not remove the soft feminine characteristics of love, of kindness, of compassion and care, as these are vital spiritual tools to the digital era. For women in particular, it is always important, and I can't stress this enough, it is always important to put one's self-respect above all else. It is okay to be ambitious and courageous, but not only as a successful woman, but as a successful, holistic person. The third distinctive quality is women think, feel, see, behave, and decide differently. Digital transformation is a process of continuous change, and I am sure it's very complex by nature. So it requires the development of new skills, or one can say spiritual life skills. Thinking, feeling, seeing, behaving, deciding, discerning, they're all spiritual life skills. And if we were to perceive of transformation as a spiritual phenomenon, the refinement of these spiritual life skills is paramount. Spiritual life skills serve to empower people in a way that they can think and make decisions on their own, but always within the context of the wider landscape that includes diversity. Spiritual life skills instill a sense of confidence through identifying strengths and the best qualities that allow for seeing from different perspectives. And spiritual life skills raise the quality of life and the standard of lifestyle. When Manya Punyani, who is the head of Digital India, was asked what motivates her, she said, and I quote, "What motivates me each day is the fact that driving digital transformation is the opportunity for me to help raise the quality of life for someone in a sustainable manner." End of quote. I return to the point that I made earlier on, that transformative leadership balances material well-being with spiritual considerations. And one of the major spiritual considerations that is required is the commitment to a personal spiritual practice. If we as women are able to stay stable and steady as we tread the uneven terrain of this digital age or era, we need a spiritual practice to keep us steady and stable. So I end with a quote from the BK statement. And the quote is, "A connection with the source establishes a sense of belonging and stability. It is this sacred connection which reaffirms the intrinsic goodness in one, which then brings clarity of purpose and inner fulfillment and courage in actions. Actions stemming from this state of consciousness are naturally life-affirming and benevolent." Thank you very much, and Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I will suggest something to all of us. Can we just take some moment to go inside in silence and to connect with your own self, and from whatever you have heard, what Gayatri shared, can you just see what resonates with you? What resonates with you?
It was so wonderful listening to Sister Gayatri live.
Thank you.
I'm from India,
maybe we can just write in the chat, because we are many. I would suggest to turn off the mic, just to have a silent reflection. And if you want to share, maybe you can do it in the chat. How do you see its relevance in your personal experience or in the work you do? And you can just write something if you are inspired to write, maybe a word, maybe a paragraph, whatever you want to share. So I will read some of what you shared. Empowerment. Women are natural spiritual leaders because they leave no one behind. Inspiration, purpose-filled work. Power of women going into the golden age. Feel, see, decide differently. Stability and connection for the service of the self and the world in the context of the digital era. India and its women have the power of the digital world to teach and transform the lives of their children and others around them in this new era of high-tech and digitalization. Women leave no one behind. Women are collaborative leaders. Women support diversity and are grateful for it. Women work with collaboration, care for individuals as well as the collective, putting self-respect over everything as successful being. The belief that spiritual connection brings stability, whether it be within the digital space or physical lives. I'm a true believer that being grounded within your spiritual life is the foundation and first step to success in all things. Keep the soft feminine qualities as these are needed for this digital age. Self-respect above all. Be not just successful women, but a holistic, successful woman. Spiritual life skills, discerning, thinking, deciding, strengthen us and allow us to see from a different perspective. Women are coaches and More than commanders, they lead with their will, consciousness, and ingenuity. I'm reflecting on women's ability to include all and to never leave anyone behind. I think it's so important to have such a leadership quality because the only way forward is together. So even if it takes more time, I believe it's worth it for us to take the time to include all in moving forward. So encouragement, motivations, empathetic nurturers. And in this era of constant change, spiritual life skills is essential to have a higher quality of life. Nurture young leaders for peace and empowerment. Create events and venues for new opportunities and modalities for feminine leadership. Removing stereotyping, use love, kindness, and compassion. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all for those inspirations that you share. And now I want to introduce Philippa Blackham. She is going to lead to facilitate the panel. Philippa is an award-winning documentary maker, reporter, and presenter for BBC Radio, with a career spanning almost 20 years, including being one of the voices of Women Hour on BBC Radio 4. She now works as an interfaith minister, and she is currently in the UK. So welcome, Philippa.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It's such a wonderful experience to be in the company of such greatness from sisters right around the world. I don't know about you, but always around the time of the International Women's Day, there is this wonderful feeling of empowerment and support and love that we feel. And I ask myself, why can't we have this feeling every day of the year? Not just because we want women as leaders, but because women have the potential to make such a difference with their own unique style of leadership. And I'd like to thank Gayatri for really giving us a manifesto for women's leadership in not just the digital age, but in this spiritual age. And really, you've given us much to think about, and maybe we can unpack some of those themes during the course of this next hour or so that we have our panel discussion. And I'm delighted to introduce our panelists to you. We span Costa Rica to Mexico, Colombia. We're going to Johannesburg in South Africa. We're going to India. We're going right around the world, and we're covering areas such as politics, business and commerce, education, as well as looking at the impact of digital media on the ground internationally. So we have a very rich hour coming up for you. And we're going to begin in Costa Rica, and we're going to invite each of our panelists to speak uninterrupted for about 5 minutes. And then once everyone has spoken, we will then bring our ideas together with a whole panel discussion. So Marcela Guerrero has always worked for the empowerment of women throughout her career, largely through a 10-year career in politics in Costa Rica, serving as the deputy for the Republic from 2014 for 4 years, and as vice president of the Legislative Assembly during that period as well. Marcela has had a particular focus on environmental issues throughout her career, as well as a strong passion for women's issues. In fact, she served as the Minister for the Status of Women and also was Executive President of the National Institute for Women right up until last year. Marcela currently works as a consultant on governance and gender equity and is the Vice President of the Forum of Political Women for Costa Rica. So very much at the cutting edge of making change happen through government policy and a focus on women's contribution. So Marcela, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for being with us and for being such an inspirational woman leader yourself. How has your time in politics, do you think, seen a change in the way women are seen, are visible, both in government, but also in private and personal spaces as well?
Muy buenos días, muy buenas tardes y muy buenas noches. Gracias, Filipa. Gracias a Marianne aquí en Costa Rica y también a Gayatri por su inspiración, a todas las personas que no solo van a participar en este panel, sino están escuchando. Yo quisiera iniciar con esta motivación de Filipa, retomando la palabra que a mí me resonó, que justamente fue la palabra introductoria y que siento en este momento que tiene que ver con la conexión sagrada con la fuente. Creo que esa es de Gayatri, la resonancia, porque incluso en este momento, aunque ustedes están en otros horarios, en otras latitudes, estamos siendo testigos de lo que significa la conexión, no solamente en esos valores que hacen el cambio transformacional en la experiencia política, económica, social, ambiental, incluso en nuestras comunidades, sino el sentido más ejemplificante de lo que significa la interconexión entre personas y por qué la tecnología se vuelve también una herramienta y no un fin en sí mismo. Este año, Naciones Unidas determinó en el marco del Día Nacional e Internacional de la Mujer hablar sobre el tema de inclusividad, de innovación, de tecnología con enfoque de género. Es decir, donde las mujeres tenemos que liderar en una era y en un cambio de época que es inédito, que no se puede comparar con revoluciones que nos antecedieran. Por el cambio tecnológico, por el cambio climático, porque la población sigue expresando niveles de exclusión importantes. Y reflexionar desde esa conexión con la fuente significa definitivamente conectarnos, aunque estemos conversando idiomas distintos, aunque vivamos en países diferentes, porque toda la humanidad en este momento está necesitada de profundas respuestas. Yo me he desempeñado en la política, ha sido un área en la que me he sentido fundamentalmente desarrollando el sentido del bien común y me he replanteado a mí misma qué significa hacer la función pública y qué significa estar al servicio. En mi camino he tenido muchas dudas y también he tenido grandes retos, he tenido errores, pero he ido desarrollando lo que podríamos decir una conversación conmigo misma para conectar y reflejarme en las otras mujeres y en los hombres con los que tenemos que acompañarnos en este cambio de época. Las personas estamos sintiendo muchas veces incertidumbre y miedo, y creo que desde el punto de vista de la política y de la agenda pública, tenemos que replantearnos cuáles son las opciones que las mujeres en toda nuestra diversidad tenemos, no solo para involucrarnos en los mercados laborales, en esta revolución industrial que definitivamente es vertiginosa, que está llena de retos, pero también de oportunidades. ¿Y qué oportunidades y qué implicaciones tiene la tecnología en la vida de las mujeres? Algunas de ellas, por cierto, bastante retadoras o bastante problemáticas, como es la violencia, en ese continuum de la violencia contra las mujeres. Es decir, también en esta era digital y en las redes sociales estamos viendo una expresión más de la violencia hacia las mujeres solo por el hecho de ser mujeres. En mi experiencia es muy importante identificar esas brechas de género para ponernos unos anteojos y poder identificar cuáles son las barreras que desde la política pública y desde los liderazgos transformacionales y desde las posibilidades que tenemos las mujeres de trabajar articuladamente, podemos bajar las brechas en materia de la inserción de las mujeres en los mercados laborales, lo importante de la corresponsabilidad, de los cuidados para romper también el paradigma de que las mujeres no tenemos oportunidades muchas veces de formarnos o eventualmente de acceder a mejores condiciones en nuestra autonomía económica. Estamos subrepresentadas no solamente en los mercados laborales, sino también en los puestos de decisión. Y queremos llegar a esos puestos de decisión para tener una agenda clara y una agenda que integre y no excluya. Desde las interseccionalidades, desde las diversidades, desde las diferentes manifestaciones en que las personas queremos integrarnos al mundo, no solo laboral, sino a este nuevo cambio de época. La pandemia nos dejó lecciones realmente dignas de retomar y repensar una estrategia de por qué, por ejemplo, y para qué queremos que las mujeres lideren no solo la política, sino la forma en que se está entendiendo el mundo digital. Y parte de eso es que no queremos más mujeres en los grandes sectores tecnológicos por un tema solo de representación, sino porque las mujeres tenemos esa conexión, como ya se ha dicho, en términos de poder pensar y poder transformar una agenda digital pensada fundamentalmente en que las mujeres nos pongamos en conexión con nuestros territorios y desde ahí poder tener las capacidades de conectar con las personas que viven en esos territorios y saber cuáles son no solamente los retos del acceso y uso de la tecnología, sino además cómo hacemos que esa tecnología den respuestas concretas a los problemas que se viven ahí. Es una forma de no estar distraídas en esta industria digital, sino enfocarnos en problemas concretos para que sean soluciones, para que den respuesta a los retos de este cambio tan vertiginoso que está viviendo la humanidad, pero sobre todo, como lo ha dicho Gayatri, desde el amor, desde la compasión y desde esa conexión sagrada que nos da la seguridad de que juntas y juntos podemos hacer que la humanidad evolucione a favor de las personas, a favor de las niñas y los niños, a favor de un pacto intergeneracional, pero sobre todo a favor de que las mujeres vivan libres, felices y libres de violencia. Gracias. Creo que cumplí con el tiempo.
Thank you so much, Marcela. Beautiful words, very much echoing what Gayatri was saying. And I think any woman that puts herself forward to play a leading role in government and politics deserves our support, our respect, and our love, because it's not easy putting yourself up there for people to take a shot at. So we'll come back to your experience of your career, Marcela, in just a moment. Interesting that in the time that Marcela worked in Costa Rican government, the number of women representatives has risen to 27 women out of 58 in the government, which is something to be absolutely proud of. And I have a feeling Marcela possibly had something to do with that in the role that she was playing. So we're going to just skip down the coast a little now to Mexico and say a very warm welcome to Jimena, Jimena Romero, who has had a career coming up for nearly 20 years in the field of strategy, finance, technology, and the delivery industry. She's worked for the likes of MSN Microsoft in London, for HSBC in Mexico, for PepsiCo in different parts of Latin America. And for the last 2.5 years, Jimena has been the head of marketplace and delivery for a startup company in Mexico City called DiDi Food, which has been delivering food using an online app, very much like Uber Eats or Just Eat, if you're familiar with those. But what's different here is that wherever possible, they have tried to use women as couriers, going to the trouble of redesigning the bags that the women carry on their backs to make their deliveries, to make it easier for the women to do their work. Now, this opportunity arose during the pandemic when people weren't wanting to go out of their homes, so it created a chance. And the company started with just 3 cities in Mexico and now operates in more than 80 cities right across Latin America, including the Dominican Republic, Chile, Peru, and Colombia. So it's been a very fast-growing business, transforming the lives of the 200,000 or so women who are working as couriers and finding their financial, economic independence as a result, giving them choices about how they live their life, about the way in which they can support their children through education, children who might otherwise have had to go out to work. Jimena, it's fantastic to hear this really good news story from Latin America, and you must feel so proud at what your company achieved in a relatively short space of time.
Thanks, Filipa, and thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this space and be able to share with women who are leading successfully in other fields. No? As you mentioned, I think the technology has impacted and has grown exponentially during the period of the pandemic, creating opportunities that were taken by the industry in order to succeed. No, so yes, so I have worked to the questions there. I have worked in Rappi, one of the unicorns in Latin America for technology and delivery, but also with DiDi, a Chinese company that entered in Latin America to penetrate the delivery food market, because compared with China, in Latin America, it's only 11% versus 33% in China. So there is a big opportunity and gap that wanted to be closed. So I started as a head of the courier side and the market side. And I think that allows me to work in this part of the digital age and the transformative as a leader. And I think that I wanted to be talking about 2 different things and aspects. So the first one is, as a woman leading in an industry where only 1 out of 10 women study this type of career, and only 13% of the women get to the senior management. So I thought it was very low, right? And with that in mind, I think that things that I've done, at least within the companies that I've been with, it's how to increase the chances to request a woman in all the hiring process, to be able to have candidates to promote and empower participation once they're entering. And in an industry that is new and a startup, then how to create similar and same conditions for women and men when they're scaling up within the organization and create equal opportunities, no? And be able to have decision making that I think or has helped me to include different points of view and have more complete solutions for the same problem by hearing different points of view. So I think this increase of women within the apps and technology has been increasing and improving. A lot of the leadership within the company, it was led by a woman. But I think the second part that you mentioned, Filipa, it's precisely on the delivery industry, in how collaborative economies are a win-win for all participants, and where without technology, it would not be an ecosystem that we have today, and it grew during the pandemic. No? So for the ones not familiar maybe with the technology, and just make it clear and fast, let's say within technology and within app, you might have, I'm gonna have restaurants as an example, you have users that search for variety and affordable plates to eat, restaurants that want incremental orders, and couriers that are looking for incremental earnings and connecting where they want, when they want, and at the amount of time they want. So I think that's why it's important, because as head of couriers that I had for these in the last company 2 years, but I've been already 5 years within this industry, what happens is that they connect and they use technology to generate the change and have the potential to break the paradigms and benefits on women. So let me make you some examples within this. It's look at the neutrality of the characteristics of the apps, which do not distinguish based on gender. A woman who connects for an hour and generate exactly the same as a man in that time, because there's no difference. Unfortunately, women face higher entry barriers to access economy activities, no? Given the unpaid family responsibilities, and during the pandemic, it was even higher. So the flexibility couriers, just by having a smartphone, that's the only thing they need, they can gain earnings in a way that it's not possible yet in other fields. Also highlight the participation of women in gastronomic sectors, because at least within the platform, something that it was very important is that 75% of these restaurants were registered as small businesses. So many of them led by female heads of households and entrepreneurs. So to translate that, a lot of the work, like 60% of the new jobs, are attributed to the home delivery within LATAM. And more than 65% of the couriers entered during the pandemic. So I think it's how to stick with that and how to continuously growing on this industry that it's very important and relevant. So something that I worked with and that I led and it took me there. So it was growing the percentage of women within the whole population of couriers within the industry, that in the industry is an average of 5%, and we're even at 15%. And by doing things that, as I think Gayatri was mentioning, no, it's just hearing them, change the backpacks, change the safety issues. Yes.
Jimena, sorry, but can you slow down like 50%? Because the translators are translating you and they are having a very hard time.
Yes, perfect. I'll do it. Sorry, I just speak very fast, but I'll do it. I'll try my best to slow down. So I think something as a leader, I have worked and increased the participation by doing these important things that looks like they're not relevant, but in the day-to-day, they're very relevant. Like change the backpacks because they're ergonomic, they're fit to the woman. They actually, you go out, and the other one was big for men to carry things, and that was not possible. Create better safety features, no? So have a button that you have a 911. Change and create a protocol of sexual harassment, something that they don't, not necessarily we talk about it every day, but it's needed, no? How to do this and be able to create those changes, the offenses, so they know where they cannot go and where is dangerous, and not sharing the phones when any of this ecosystem, so they are actually safe and secure, no? And creating different things, even these open to other industries like insurances, where insurances were not ready for this type of industries that were new. So they have to create policies to be able to ensure and secure the deliveries that we wanted to have, and how to charge them, how to do it. So I think a lot of these have an importance of women being able to continue making their way in the areas that they have not been, but also in the science and technology. We brought daughters and relatives of the couriers and give them promoting a series of virtual workshops that we do it with certain times, and have the name create, program, and inspire aimed to girls and adolescents, that can actually, we can make the change. So they can learn how to program. We give the best, and we promote to the top performers a course. So if we make the change and the opportunity we give them for them to start learning about it, it's how can we actually start doing it, and we're doing it with the families of the couriers. So I think that it's not only a gender equality, and it shouldn't be an objective itself, but it's more a precondition of how can we tackle all the variety of challenges that we have. We can reduce poverty, we can promote sustainable development, and we build good governments too, because the women tend to spend much more on families and communities than what men do, and they actually use it much more within the family. No, I think it's a difference of 90% versus 40%. So I think that part it's something that I was working, and just by hearing and trying to increase that percentage. So both things with the couriers, but also within the company.
Absolutely fascinating, Jimena, and how something as simple as having a mobile phone and downloading an app can transform not just your economic situation, but the livelihood and the well-being of an entire family, but also you're saying of the whole community, because women give back not just to their families, but to their communities. So this is how empowering women can really bring about systemic changes within society. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much, Jimena, and congratulations on the work that you are doing. So we're going to cross a couple of oceans now to India and say a warm welcome to Samiksha Arya, who's from India but has spent the last several months living and working in London. And Samiksha is 24. She's a digital content creator and social media manager of the youth wing of the Brahma Kumaris in Delhi. She's completed her further education with a diploma in fashion design and another in English. And she uses her skills of photography, of graphic design, of filmmaking, video editing, and putting this all out on a number of different social media platforms that are looking to make positive changes in society. And Samiksha herself has a keen interest in practical spirituality, which Samiksha, you try to bring through in the work that you're doing. But as someone who is of the generation that you're from, I wonder if you could give us a sense of the way in which the digital technologies have impacted your life, have helped you find opportunities, have helped you feel like a global citizen, and really have become the backbone of how you operate in this world. Give us a sense of how that has impacted on you.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to begin with the fact that I spent my childhood in a very small town, but because I had access to the internet, I never felt like I was left behind, because I always felt, because growing up we had internet, so I always felt like I felt like I was a global citizen, and I could really talk about things like globally as a generation we were going through, because we were really informed about it, which I think previous generations were not. I'd also like to share a personal story. When I was very little, probably I was in grade 5. I remember having spent a very good summer vacation at home. Really, I had a lot of fun with my cousins all over. We had good food and whatever a child could ask for during a summer vacation. And I still remember when I was on my way back to the school and the school reopened, I was so excited to tell my friends that, you know, I had this, I did this, we did this and that, we played so much games, blah, blah, blah. And then when we were really sharing about our summer vacation, everybody started saying that, oh, I visited the beach this summer, I visited this place this summer. And instantly I felt like, oh, but I didn't go anywhere. And although I was really happy a moment ago, but I suddenly felt like I did not have something that somebody else had. And also this person especially, one of my friends, she had visited the beach, and on top of that she also had actual photographs in her hands, and she was showing this to everybody. And I remember that everybody had gathered around her and everybody wanted to see what kind of picture she had, what kind of fun did she had. um, and I went back home that day. I threw my school backpack and I told my parents, why did you not take me anywhere? And just by that incident, I was so discontent, although I thought that this was the best summer that I had. Another incident that happened was growing up as a generation, we grew up around TV, internet, and we were really exposed to a lot of images of these perfect looking models, actors. So growing up, I had a lot of body image issues because I would constantly compare myself to these bodies because they were really celebrated and everybody wants social validation. So I used to think, oh, but why does my hair doesn't look like that? Why does my waist doesn't look like that? Why do I not have a thigh cap and things like that? So growing up, I think not just me, but also my friends and people around me, especially girls, they had severe body image issues. So we were really, really unhappy with the way that we looked. Um, and also, I have also seen a little bit of that time where social media was not that mainstream. So, you know how when we were in the classroom, uh, issues like bullying and you know things like that were really confined to just the classroom and a handful of people. And imagine growing up with all of these things, and suddenly you are exposed to social media because it really suddenly became the mainstream thing. And you are already comparing yourself to so many people through media and everything. And suddenly social media becomes mainstream and everybody's on social media. And imagine it's like every 10 minutes, somebody walking through your door and saying, oh, I have this designer bag, and going back, oh, I visited Paris this month, and things like that. So you're really exposed to a lot of things, not just a handful of people anymore, but you are actually exposed to the best part of the lives of thousands of even millions of people online. So the sense of comparison started very early in my life, and I started to become more and more and more discontent with my own life. And really, my goals in life really changed because of social media, and a lot of things, a lot of my actions and choices were really influenced by social media without probably me consciously realizing it. And today, for example, I see one of my cousins. She is in her early teens, and probably she doesn't really realize how impacted she is by social media. But I see her arguing with her parents, oh, I want this back, I want this dress because I want to look a certain way, and being very, very discontent with what she has. So, social media, yes, has made me a global citizen, but also uh, gives a sense of constant comparison and really takes away the feeling of gratitude of what we have and appreciation of what we have from us. Um, and I also have witnessed that a lot of people have altered their reality just to be somebody on social media. For example, I'll again share a personal story. I remember I was at a party of one of my friends, and um, that party was not going the way it should be going, because my friend's boyfriend was expected to do something but he didn't. So one of my friends whose birthday was it, the birthday girl, she was very, very discontent. She was not at all enjoying at all. Um, and she was throwing tantrums. She was da da da. But she had definitely put up a Instagram story wherein she had actually laid up all of her gifts and cake and whatever, and she had put up a story, best birthday ever. And then another friend was not at the party. She said, "Oh, I really felt like the sense of FOMO, which means fear of missing out, um, because it seems like you guys had so much fun, and I missed it." And I just realized how problematic that was, because all of us who were present at that moment, we know how it went, but rest of 600, 700 people who was watching that story, they thought, oh, this person is having so much fun. And everybody, even in real life, we don't really tend to share something not very happy with other people, right? The narratives that we're sharing, the best part of our lives. But it really, really has an impact on everybody thinking, oh, they're having so much fun. So I was really growing up with all of these things, and I was really discontent in my life. And this was before I started my spiritual journey with Brahma Kumaris. And when I started on to this journey of spirituality, the first lesson that we were taught, the very first day that the very first day I was asked this question, who are you? And I thought, how silly, I know who I am, I'm a girl. And they said, no, just think about who you really are. And I said, well, I am a human, what else? And they said, okay, you are a human being, but if you really understand the reality of it, it really changes the reality of your life. And I was very intrigued to thinking, what would that mean? And they explained to me that you are a human being, which means human plus being. So human, you are this body of flesh and bones, but also the being, the inner being. And I said, well, okay, how does that really makes a difference in my life? And they said that we spend all of our lives thinking
I think Samiksha's having
in order to
some
be
internet
feeling
problems.
perfect inside.
We
Is that
lost
okay
you.
now?
Yeah, we lost you for a moment, but thank you.
Okay.
Had you finished what you were saying?
Yes, I was just saying that they told me that we spend all of our lives thinking we need to make everything perfect outside in order to be feeling perfect inside. But it's actually, if the being is feeling perfect, you can actually alter your reality into being perfect, which was something new to me. And also, when I said that, I'm in constant comparison with everyone, I feel like everyone has achieved so much and I haven't. And I really have this sense of inferiority complex because of social media. Because at one point I completely stopped using social media because I thought, oh, I'm so much of, I have no worth because I haven't achieved anything in life. And they said that we often think that ego is feeling superior to someone, but ego is actually, if you have inferiority complex, that is also ego, which was also again something new for me. And the teacher further explained that if you think that you are inferior to someone, you are actually attached to the wrong image of yourself, because that's not you. Because you see, in human being, the human part, the body, the flesh and bones, it could be different for everybody. But if you really think about it, the being part, everyone is same.
Thank you.
So
Well,
the teacher.
Samiksha, I'm going to jump in there because I want to make sure that we have time for everything that is being planned for the program. But
Yeah,
what I'm getting from what you're saying is a very strong sense of the way in which this digital age has negatively impacted the self-esteem of young women growing up. And that's the opposite of what we're wanting young women to experience. And the very superficial way in which social media enables people to portray a version of themselves which simply isn't true and just gives others a complex. And it's really great to see how your spiritual studies is rebuilding your sense of self and giving you a sense of purpose in the world. So Samiksha, thank you so much, and stay with us for our panel discussion. We'll be coming back to you in just a moment. But I think if we continue with this theme of the way in which the digital space has negatively impacted women's lives, we have a lot to learn from Nomshado Lubisi Nosinkulu, and I hope I've pronounced your name correctly there. I hope I've done okay.
Yeah.
Nomshado, was I all right there? Was that okay?
Yes, you were.
Okay, perfect.
Brilliant.
You're joining us from Johannesburg in South Africa, and you're passionate about all forms of media and digital technology, and your whole career has really been focused on this. You're also a published author now. You were a former committee member of the South African Internet Governance Forum, looking at all these issues. You've worked on many projects which look at how to make the digital space safer for women, how to improve digital literacy, how to improve access to technology, and many research projects looking at not just media policy, but the use of social media and how that has affected things like politics and the way in which women are perceived in South Africa. So a really rich career that you are forging. Can you give us a sense of what you feel are your main concerns about the way in which digital technologies are negatively impacting women's lives?
Thank you so much for having me. And when I was told 5 minutes, I said, oof, I gotta try my best to ensure that I stick to the 5 minutes because of so much that one would like to cover. But for me, I think I'll focus on, as you said, the elements that really are becoming more sophisticated, are really becoming quite a big threat. And just to give a slight background of the organization I come from, in order for everyone to understand the two parts that I'll be talking about. So our organization was formed in 1993, and the main mandate at that time was to monitor media coverage and to see, obviously, if this is done in such a manner that is free, fair, and ethical. Especially since in South Africa, that was, our first democratic election that we had. And we really, we have a vision of ensuring that, we are promoting democracy and a culture of media that is respecting human rights and obviously encouraging a just and fair society. And in doing so, obviously the digital era came about and it started evolving and started becoming more sophisticated. And the very same space that women were given, I believe, as an extension of their voices, an opportunity for them, to have a diverse, number of platforms whereby they can really echo their standing point in society and showcase their capabilities at the same time, is the very same platform whereby now we are dealing with digital misogyny. And in a historical sense, to know that, technology can also assist, such negative narratives. It can assist such, it still baffles me, but such, I can't even find a word, but out of the case studies and stories that I've been exposed to, whereby we've seen how women are viciously attacked online, talking harassment, cyberbullying, gender disinformation. And this is obviously done in such a manner whereby it's to humiliate them, to demean them, to belittle their roles, and to kind of silence them and, end up in an issue of censorship. And our large focus has been around women in journalism. And, knowing very well that already we're dealing with a situation where female journalists as a whole, we still have a long way to go to ensure that we are equalizing that number. And here we are. I think one of the quotes that I have to share that I was really exposed to is actually from a reporter from India. She said, I did the story on women being molested. I was trolled and so many comments said that I should go the same way as the other woman went, that I should be raped and thrown to the dogs. So here's a woman who is giving back to society in the biggest of meaningful ways. And I think we cannot fathom the role that media plays in our society. And she's going out there telling women's stories, showcasing, the daily lives, achievements, and issues that women deal with on a daily basis. And at the same time, she now needs to deal with online harassment, online abuse, and expecting her at the same time to carry on as normal, as if, it's an everyday thing. And with that, we've started seeing how women are starting to also now see themselves differently online, because there's that thing of, if I go about and voice my opinion on an issue, there's a high chance that I'm going to be attacked, right? And I think there was a study done by Amnesty International, which saw that 40% of female Twitter users who use it more than once a day have experienced online abuse. And for me to think about that and to think in numbers, how mind-blowing that is, that a woman needs to deal with that. And the mere fact that, as I said, the more technology is evolving with AI, we're now getting manipulation of media from voice to video to action. And that is becoming scary, because in a continent like Africa, where the digital gap is still so apparent, digital literacy is an issue. So people do not even know that, this is disinformation, this is misinformation, this is media that was manipulated. She really didn't say that, or she really didn't take that picture. But because they have the technology to be able to manipulate that space, it has really become a sense of, a safe zone for them. And I think over the years, my passion has been lying on advocating for ensuring that we really have the correct measures to ensure that women are protected online. And we really also are advocating for their voices to be heard, which I'll speak about on my second part. And I think I cannot leave out speaking about children. And I think our previous speaker spoke about, young adults in this life. But what we've been seeing is that not only has, technology really given an opportunity for our children to connect, to the world, to see the world in a different light, and to start, being filled with so much information. But now it's an issue whereby they need to start thinking of life, from a different perspective. It's no longer about thinking about my life footprint, but now they need to start thinking about their digital footprint. And most of them from a young age don't understand that what I do online actually stays with me for life. Whether I'm 22, 25, whether I'm 18, all of those footprints that I've laid online are always trailing behind me. Now, that is also one of the biggest issues that we're having, where cyberbullying has moved from offline to online. But when it's online, it actually spreads so fast, so wide, that you'll find yourself in a small community, but now the whole city might know, the whole country might know what was happening with you. And we've seen, for example, in South Africa, young people taking their lives because of this, whereby it almost felt like there's nowhere else to go, because this is what now people see them as. And we're moving back to women's voices. It goes back to, the issue of, we still need a lot of women voices in the media. We're hearing more of men, and our monitoring over the years have shown us that till today, women are only quoted 20% in the media. In a society whereby we are dominating, in a society where we have very capable women, in a society whereby we've got experts that are doing amazing work in their sectors, and we still have an issue whereby we're not seeing them enough. And even if it's an issue that affects them, such as gender-based violence, and you would expect that women would be in the forefront of that, their voices would be echoed to the brim. But unfortunately, we're still dealing with the same thing of marginalized voices in such a year, in such an era where women are really capable of voicing their issues and voicing their solutions to the issues that they are facing. And I think I'll stop there to make sure that we're sticking to time.
Well, Nomshado, I mean, what to do? You're painting a picture really of misogyny, which is morphing as technology evolves. And it's a mistake to think that because you have experienced an online assault or attack, that it's not going to affect you as deeply as if it were happening in the real world. But the impact goes very deep, and it lasts a long time and can affect the whole of a woman's life. So we have our work cut out for us in terms of reclaiming this space as one which can be supportive of women, and that women can support other women who are putting themselves into public spaces online. I think there's many ways we can go with this conversation. I'd like to bring Gayatri back into our conversation, if that's possible, and see what you feel, Gayatri, having listened to our panelists. I'm filled with a sense of how when women do take control of digital spaces, they are doing so much good for themselves, for their families, for their communities. But of course, they don't necessarily own the spaces in which they're operating. And you talked about this shift in perception of not just working for the good of the company for economic gain, but working for the good of the whole as women leaders in a digital space. But of course, that requires quite a profound shift in perception and consciousness to see your role in the digital space as one that can have a positive impact. How do we turn this situation around so that more women can have a positive experience in the digital space and have a positive impact on society?
Well, I'll attempt to just share from what I heard how that could happen, because I think each one of the speakers, each one of you who shared, I think demonstrated exactly what Philippa is asking us to look at, that change of perception. For instance, I love it when Marcela reminded me that when I talk about community and when I talk about connecting community, I must also remember that the community includes environment, includes economic, includes the political. And so even though you may treat those as systems and as bodies of things, they do have an impact on women's lives. Now, I feel that why I push for women making a difference in the community, it's because they do invest, I call it investing of resources in encouraging women at the grassroots level, women in the community, to recognize they have voices. And perceptions and perspectives are only changed if you have people who are either the beneficiaries or the victims of a system. When they speak up, and if they speak up in volumes of voices, in large numbers of voices, the power of the community can change policy. But maybe we have taken a back seat and we are no longer encouraging those voices because, as someone said, that those voices are now being silenced. Now, I think we're living in, it's like the dichotomy. You're living an on life. You have the digital world and you have the real life world. And so I think, how do you bring the two together? How do you bring the virtual with the real, with the reality? And I think each one of you, you're doing that in a very effective way. The other thing that I was touched by that shows a change in perspective is what Jimena said. I loved it when you said that those women, those young women going out, delivering food, you made sure you had a backpack that suited their backs. And you just didn't put the man's backpack on the woman's back. Now, think about that. Think about those words that I've just said, and visually, it's as though she's always carrying the load of something, but you kind of put something on her back that gave her a sense of empowerment. So I think perspectives, Philippa, are changed by the realities in the real living life. And for men and women, boys and girls, to speak up. But women in transformative leadership's position will make sure those voices are heard and the voices are not just silenced. And I would just offer that.
Absolutely. And, I think it was really a very powerful analogy of changing the backpack to suit women. Because very often women are entering into a space, whether it be a political, economic, educational arena, using rules of leadership that have very often been created by men, which benefit men, and they try and insert themselves into that system. And it doesn't always work. It's not always a perfect fit. So how do we create a new set of rules for engagement of women as leaders in our digital spaces and in society at large? Because otherwise it's a system that is benefiting men over and above women. Jimena, do you want to come in on that point?
I think different points to comment here. So the first one is that also we're
not hearing you so loud, Jimena. Can you just bring your microphone a little bit nearer?
Okay.
That's
better.
better.
Do you hear me now? Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
You.
So I was saying that not only we as women have also the role to believe in ourselves, to believe that we can make the change. Because I think that not only with the bus, but let's say that was like the delivery was done mainly by men, but the woman understood that they can actually do it. The same with the STEM, right? The percentage of women that are here are very low. So how do we make like also the empowerment and believe that we are the same, that we have equality, and that we can actually comply with the same roles as they have, with the differences that we have as an advantage too, right? So I think that part of having this additional security, this backpack, this hearing them to understand, okay, they need to know maybe where not to go with the technology because they are more tend to be assault or whatever. I think that part needed to be developed, but at the end, it's also that you believe that you're the same, that you don't see that gap difference or that you grew up with those. So if you give those opportunities like the STEM courses for the daughters of the couriers that we did and everything, then they will see like, okay, maybe it wasn't that difficult. Maybe I can do it. Oh, I didn't hear that before. I didn't have to study something that maybe I want to go that way, but no one told them before. So how they can actually understand, see the potential, and try to risk themselves to do it. No? So I think that's the part. So you give the tools, they engage and decide to go for it or not. No, and you need to reiterate many times because not necessarily the backpack will be the only reason. Maybe you need to start thinking what else is just making that barrier. But I think it's something that needs to be thought in a diverse environment, because otherwise it's very hard to have a resolution or a solution of that problem with the right answer, right?
Marcela, you've obviously worked in government and politics, and you've seen the number of women grow in the time that you've been there. Have you seen women making changes that will support and encourage more women to come into politics and to give them a more positive experience of offering themselves up as leaders?
Efectivamente, Costa Rica está participando de forma activa para que las mujeres estemos de forma igualitaria representadas en todos los puestos de decisión. Hoy tenemos un gabinete en el Poder Ejecutivo que es paritario, es decir, hay igual representación de hombres que mujeres. Casi tenemos el 50% en Asamblea Legislativa. Tenemos, como vos decías, Filipa, 28 mujeres de 57 personas que nos representan, pero en los gobiernos locales, en donde mayoritariamente las mujeres pueden incidir, como ha dicho Gayatri, en la vida directa de las comunidades, tenemos un déficit que esperamos y estamos trabajando para en las próximas elecciones municipales que van a ser en el 2024, poder equiparar el número de mujeres en la base de la democracia en el caso de Costa Rica. ¿Por qué? Porque efectivamente, como lo ha dicho Jimena, tenemos opciones del uso y el acceso a la tecnología. Una puede ser la que las empresas grandes en nuestro país puedan brindarle igualdad de oportunidades a las mujeres. Ahorita o actualmente estamos discutiendo para qué la tecnología, porque ciertamente tenemos las mismas capacidades. Sin embargo, desde la política pública, no todas las mujeres tienen acceso al Internet y acceso, además, a no solamente tener un dispositivo móvil para participar en las plataformas, sino para poder hacer de la tecnología una base empresarial. Hoy en Costa Rica, del 100% de las empresas digitales, solo el 2% está en manos de mujeres. Entonces sí, podemos hacer uso del dispositivo para trabajar en una empresa, pero también tenemos que trabajar para nosotras mismas y también tenemos que hacer uso. El 90% de las mujeres en Costa Rica tienen un dispositivo móvil, pero el número es menor cuando se trata de computadoras, que es lo que también generan conocimiento y generan respuestas en nuestros territorios, ¿verdad? Porque la tecnología, incluso para que las mujeres volvamos a conectar no estemos distraídas en toda esa industria del entretenimiento, sino usemos la tecnología para dar respuestas y estar ancladas a nuestra realidad y a nuestras comunidades. Yo cierro diciendo, y vuelvo a retomar lo que Gayatri ha dicho, hay un tema de conexión sagrada, número 1, con nosotras mismas para encontrar un lugar en este mundo cambiante. Número 2, para conectar con amor, con el bien común y las comunidades. Y número 3, desde el Foro de Mujeres Políticas por Costa Rica, en el que yo trabajo, estamos teniendo una primera conversación para conectar entre nosotras y ver nuestro lugar en este mundo de cambio y fundamentalmente cómo las mujeres quieren llevar adelante, no solo en la decisión política, sino en sus vidas, el uso de las tecnologías y sobre todo la oportunidad de estar libre de violencia. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Marcela. I will just say that if anyone listening would like to put a question to any of our panelists, please feel free to use the chat box and I'll try and pick up your questions and feed them in. Nomshado, we're hearing there about ways in which women can make a difference when they come into a position of leadership. But from the research that you have done, you set out in a way quite a dismal picture of digital offences to do with harassment, hate speech, manipulation of content, particular women being targeted, disinformation, the digital divide. You know, the challenges are there. What would you say is the most effective thing that women can do to support other women who are occupying a digital space? How do we make a difference with just being one person?
I think, yes, I did perhaps set a dismal image, but that I think because it's becoming more sophisticated and it's rising, that's only because women are out there more online actually raising their voices, and hence you have all these efforts that are trying to diminish them. One thing I've seen that has been so powerful in Africa, particularly in South Africa, we have this saying that I am because we are, which is Ubuntu. And there's nothing more powerful than seeing another woman stand up for the other. Online, bold enough, clear enough for everyone to see. There's nothing more strong enough to see a number of women rallying behind the other who is standing up and voicing her opinion. And not only that, and we've seen women in political positions, we've seen women in advocacy, we've seen women in civil society, we've seen women in parliament, we've seen women in different sectors really come into the space and use it and mobilize it for the better good of raising and empowering other women. And there's nothing more powerful than us standing together and realizing the power that stands in that. And I think earlier it was raised that, you know, women have a natural effect of raising others with them. It's not a solo mission, but it's an us mission. It's a plural mission. Yeah. I cannot do this by myself. I'm not the one woman do it all, but I'm the all woman. Let's do it. And I think when you see that online, it's empowering enough to show those offenders that this is not okay, because if once I do this, as much as so online we have this thing called troll networks, so it's automated a number of accounts that are used to troll a specific individual. And I always say, imagine the same troll network doing positive things, because bots are not only negative, and I think I need to raise that bots are also used actually for education, for raising awareness on very important issues and educating the public. And I always say, imagine a positive a number of women, as if they are their own troll network, standing up for the other and standing up for the causes that affect us. But most importantly, showing that this thing called technology, ICT, STEM, we are there, we are exposed to it, and we want to expose more women and young girls into the space. And the only way we can do it is to show them that it's possible.
In a way, the message is you have power in your click. So
definitely.
Whatever you're clicking on, whatever you're doing, it has power. We've got some lovely comments coming in. Appreciation for this phrase, I am because we are. Gives a lovely sense of solidarity. Confirmation from another of our participants, women are not supporting women enough. We will not have equality until we stand up for all women. Someone who's a professor in teaching education would very much like to get connected to help empower other women. So there is a good feeling there for standing up and making a difference. So make sure you're inheriting in a way the impact of this digital age that is now well established. You've set out for us the challenges that you face growing up in this digital age. Do you have confidence that women can redesign the digital space in a way that works for women?
I think certainly women can, but something that I also believe very strongly is in that, yes, we do need women representation and women leadership more and more in the digital space. But I think what we also need is really the soul empowerment, because I see that there are a lot of men also who are very compassionate towards the whole system of trolling and bullying and harassment in digital space. And also, as the comments also mentioned, that there are also women who are putting down women. So I think what's really important in these times is the empowerment of the soul, the inner being. Another thing which I find really important is that the very first thing that women need to stop feeling is the feeling of being inferior, because as beings, we are all equal. So the gender, the roles that we're playing is just the outside thing, but on the level of being, everyone is equal. When we understand the importance of it, the inferiority complex, the comparison, the bullying, the harassment, I think at least it empowers us in the spiritual level, in the sense that we at least stop comparing our roles, and it stops impacting us, impacting our emotional health. And other thing that I really believe, and we also try to educate people over practical spirituality, is that if we really take back the focus upon the inner being, and we understand the inner being is the seed of the life, of the tree of the life. And if the seed is okay, if the inner being is okay, because we have been celebrating the achievements of the doing, which is good, but not at the cost of the being. We've always been celebrating achievements. Oh, he earns this much, we are visiting this place, he has this designer bag, blah, blah, blah. But if we also equally talk about empowering the inner being, I think that will help.
I wonder, Gayatri, if you'd like to jump in there, because you said at the beginning of our session that if we can begin to see transformation as a spiritual process, then that will be a very important step towards empowering ourselves. What difference do you see spirituality making on this journey of women's leadership in the digital age?
Well, I see spirituality making a difference in the transformative process, because we are looking at awareness, at attitudes, at the way we see things, at the way we behave, etc. It's a subtle phenomenon, transformation. It is not just about changing. Technology is a tool. The digital space is a space, but what are we bringing into it? But I suppose sharing a story with you would allow us to see the responsibility that we have, both as men and women, but especially as parents. And the story was of a general in an army who was discussing the next war that he was going to be fighting. And then his daughter came to him and says, "Dad, I want an iPad." And that request stopped him in his tracks. Now, the story was told in that way, and we were all left to reflect on it. And my reflection went immediately on that child saying, "I want an iPad," stop the father in his tracks, because what is that child going to be accessing with that iPad in relation to what he was doing? That was where I went. And so the moral of the story, and why the spiritual dimension is so important, is that the first request from a child to a parent or to an adult, "I want a device," that's where the spiritual education starts. What are you putting in the hands of the child, and what will the child do with it? What will the adult do with it? And what are the repercussions of this one simple act of handing a device and making the World Wide Web available to this kid? Isn't it also incumbent upon the adult to coach, to mentor, to prepare the child to enter into this World Wide Web of anything is possible and everything is possible, rather than just putting, a barrier of them getting on certain programs? But it does require, and that for me is where spirituality starts. You are empowering them. You are, and this is where the spiritual skills, women think differently, women behave differently, women see differently. And so I would say that. But the other thing I would say is something that Namshado said. And Namshado, you said, just as how we have a carbon footprint, we have a digital footprint. What is that digital footprint, and how much more deeply it impacts the human being? Shamishka was talking about this being, and how deeply it actually destroys the human being's worth, or it makes it something that, because there's another side to the internet, it's something that connects, something that does good things. So I think those are things from where the spiritual education starts and where transformation begins. It begins from that very first request to have access to the digital space. And one further thing, Nomish, as I have you, Nomashado. I wanted, to also say something to you. This year, the United Nations is celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Human Rights Declaration. And you began your comments with, this whole world, this digital era is a new culture, is a media culture. And within this media culture, what are the human rights in relation to this new media culture? And I wonder if something is living in there for you to take up in the celebration of the 75th anniversary.
Well, it sounds like there's a role waiting for you there, Namshado, if you're happy to accept the challenge. But what you're saying, Gayatri, is so true. And as any parent will testify, trying to preserve childhood and keep the impact of the digital age from our children as long as possible is a really big challenge, because they see it, they want it, and they're very persuasive about how all their friends have it and they want to have it too. So we have created this new world it's the World Wide Web, and in a way it is just mirroring what is happening in the real world, but it has the potential to change and transform lives for the better, and it has the potential to have a negative impact. And we have to ensure that we're using that potential for good in society. We could keep going a lot longer, but I would like to thank each of you for your contributions. Gayatri, for your beautiful words at the start, Marcela, Nomshado, Samiksha, and Marcela. You're all pioneers of leadership, and we salute you, we support you, we stand with you. Keep on keeping on, and together we can walk towards a brighter future for us all. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Wow, that was very dynamic and rich conversation. And we have been hearing quite a bit about empowering the self and strengthening the being and paying attention to that inner core. So I invite all of you, all of us, to take a few minutes, take a little breather, go within and enjoy about 3 to 4 minutes of self-empowerment. And this will be done through a recorded guided meditation on video. So please let us enjoy this.
I let go of all the roles that I play on a daily basis, and I allow myself for a moment to move into the awareness of my eternal form. I, the soul, am a powerful being. I have energy. I have the ability to steer my thoughts in whatever direction I choose. And in this moment, I choose to rise above any pain or sorrow, and I enter that pure light of I, the eternal soul. I look into the mirror of my eternal reality, and I see within that there is goodness, that there is peace, that there is wisdom. When I stay in the awareness of my eternal reality, I have the power to face the negative. I choose to rise above any pain or sorrow, and I enter that pure light of I, the eternal soul. I look into the mirror of my eternal reality, and I see within that there is goodness, that there is peace, that there is wisdom. When I stay in the awareness of my eternal reality, I have the power to face the negative forces within myself. I have the power to stay peaceful amidst all the obstacles of life. And I, the powerful soul, know that more than obstacles, these situations are opportunities to train in spiritual wisdom, opportunities to practice the power to cooperate, the power to tolerate the storms of life, the power to withdraw and collect my own energy, the power to pack up unnecessary thoughts and go within myself to discover the eternal pearls of my innermost qualities. In this moment, I radiate this energy and power of I, the soul, into the world. And I allow this feeling of inner power to unleash itself within my being. When I am in my eternal reality, I have the power to see beyond the mundane and trivial situations, the wisdom to see the broader picture of life. I have the power to see that no matter how dark things may become, everything works in cycles and seasons, and every being will find their way back to happiness, to well-being. In this experience of power, I am calm and unaffected by any storms of life. And I know that whenever I choose, I can cross this bridge from the mundane into the awareness of my eternal reality. I can enter that powerful divinity and beauty within me whenever I choose. And when I do this, I release my potential into the world, and I can begin to make the impossible possible.
Thank you very much. And with all the gifts that we heard today and we received today, it's not quite complete yet. There is still one more little gift that we would like to share with you as words of empowerment that you can use for yourself. It's a quote from our dearest Daddy Janki, who is a former head of the Brahma Kumaris. And I quote, "When I resolve to let go of peacelessness, and over a period of time, I successfully connect to the higher source, the energy of peace builds inside me and becomes a power. This power further accumulates as I learn not to be affected by the external events and atmosphere. This enables me to feel not only that I can rise above the obstacles myself, but that I can help others do the same." So I wish you take those few words away as a gift from all of us on your onward journey. And at this point, we would like to, on behalf of all of us at the BKUN team and the Brahma Kumaris at large, to say a big, big thank you to all of you for coming out today and supporting the event and giving your light and your smiles and bringing your beauty. And we know that you're going to take something and use it to make our world a better place, to empower our fellow sisters, women and girls. Special thank you, of course, to our respected and esteemed panelists, to Gayatri, to our moderator, to the organizers, to the translators, and of course to the NGO CSW team, and to the co-sponsors, the Committee on Spirituality, Values, and Global Concerns for supporting us also in this. So the list will go on and on. So again, big thank you. And lastly, as a little additional takeaway gift, we have a number of websites that offer very short meditations and affirmations and so on. So this is like our toolkit for you. And I think there is also a QR code that if you scan that, you can get access to that page with all the links. And lastly, I would like to let you know that the event was live streamed on Facebook. So if you would like to go back and hear the wonderful points that came up in this conversation, you're most welcome to do so. The Brahma Kumaris at United Nations Facebook page. So once again, thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of CSW.
Goodbye, everyone. It was lovely to be with you all.
It's really lovely to see so many friends.